I am never a fan of jumping the gun on stories where we just don't know what happened. This morning, I did a story on Covington on my main channel, youtube.com/timcast, particularly because I wanted to wait as long as possible to figure out what happened with this story. For those that aren't familiar, a Ukrainian Boeing 737 crashed after takeoff in Iran, killing all 176 people aboard. My thoughts and condolences, seriously, to everyone whose loved ones were involved. I've seen some stories on social media, and it's horrifying. I believe, based on a lot of what's being speculated right now, that the simple solution is this plane was shot down. Now, initially, it was reported, my understanding, that it was a malfunction. However, video emerged showing a fireball fall from the sky, and these planes are capable of flying with a single engine. Not only that, the plane stopped transmitting. So you take all of these things into consideration, and I'll run through it right now because I want to make sure I'll just hit the point and I'll go through the new information, some of the speculation. Let me tell you this. Typically, when planes suffer a malfunction, their transmitters alert, hey, this is what's happening. 8 minutes after takeoff at around, I believe, 8,000 feet, the plane just stopped transmitting and was filmed in the air as a fireball, people are assuming it's the flight, and then crashing and exploding. I don't want to say that it was necessarily a missile that took it down, but it could have been. I don't know for sure, but I'll tell you this. There's some reports, and again, I don't know if it's going to be included in these sources I'm using BuzzFeed, that this is the first crash that Ukrainian international airlines have suffered since 1992. I've seen some of that. And regardless of whether or not when the last crash was, plane crashes are exceedingly and incredibly rare. There are like tens of thousands, like a ridiculous amount of flights every day. No crashes, none. You know, we had the 737 MAX had a couple crashes, people freaked out, but this is a 737-800. Both engines failing, bursting into flames, transmitter going out like that. Iran was firing missiles into Iraqi military bases the other day. In retaliation, there were no casualties. Donald Trump just spoke recently, and, you know, it looks like we may be heading towards de-escalation. But a lot of what's being speculated and reported is that anti-aircraft sites positioned around airports were on extremely high alert hair triggers because there was a fear in Iran of retaliation by U.S. forces that they would use drones to target airports. There's been some speculation that a U.S. drone crashed into it or something like that. That makes literally no sense, but I've seen some people mentioning it. U.S. drones fly at 55,000 to 60,000 feet in the air, well above where this is my understanding, I could be wrong, well above where commercial airlines are flying, plus they were at 8,000 feet. I think what we're seeing is there was just a high alert, and this a system targeted it. That's what I think happened. Let's read the story and get some of the details, because there's a few things that need to be pointed out. For one, Iran is not going to be turning over the black box. They're under no obligation to do so, but I think they should to an independent authority, not to American, because, it's a conflict. We don't know what's going to happen. I think it's fair to say, as an American, it should be handed over to an independent, country or investigation unit. Well, let's read. BuzzFeed News says, Ukrainian International Airlines flight PS-752 to Kiev crashed shortly after takeoff from Tehran's Imam Khomeini Airport at 6:10 a.m. local time. Ukraine's embassy in Tehran initially blamed engine failure for the crash, but later updated its statement to say the cause could not be determined until an official inquiry had been carried out. State media in Iran said the plane crashed due to technical problems. According to Reuters, Iran said it will not give the plane's black box to Boeing. Ukraine's foreign minister, Vadim Prystaiko, said he had spoken to his Iranian counterpart, Javad Zarif, and agreed to coordinate investigations into the crash. So that's a good thing. In a statement, Ukraine, they're the ones who have lost this flight, and Ukraine is fairly, it has good relations with Iran and the United States. I think that'd be fair. In a statement, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said a team of Ukrainian experts were flying to Iran to take part in the investigation into the crash. Our priority is to establish the truth and those responsible for this terrible catastrophe, he said. Let me tell you something. They initially said engine failure. They walked it back. They're suspending all flights now to Iran. The FAA is suspending flights, around Iraq. Who's responsible for the catastrophe? Wait. Volodymyr Zelensky says to find out who's responsible for this catastrophe. I thought it was a technical failure. Who's responsible for that? The manufacturer, I guess? No, I think this was a mistake. I think Iran accidentally shot down this commercial airliner because they had anti-aircraft systems set up, hair triggers, and somebody made a serious mistake. They say the plane crash took place just hours after Iran launched a series of ballistic missiles against the U.S. So once again, a couple hours afterwards, Iran's on high alert, scared of American retaliation. Drone strikes against airports. Plane goes down. The Federal Aviation Administration in the U.S. banned commercial flights from the region in response to the missile attacks. The increased military activity and political tensions in the region would put civilian aircraft at risk if they were misidentified, the FAA notice to aviators said. Ukraine's Pristaiko said 82. I'm not going to read through. I want to keep the stuff to the higher level stuff. And again, my serious condolences. People lost their lives on this, but I want to stay focused on international relations. And they say the airline expressed its deepest condolences to the families. According to the AP, the Iranian emergency official Pierre Hossein Kulavan said all crew and passengers died in the fiery crash and that authorities were trying to recover the bodies. The AP also reported that Qassem Benaez, a spokesperson for Iran's Road Transportation Ministry, told state-run news agency IRNA the plane had crashed after a fire appeared to strike one of its engines after takeoff and the pilot lost control. I do not believe that makes sense. These planes can fly with one engine. It crashed 8 minutes after takeoff from around 8,000 feet. There's no reason if an engine bursts into flames, they would keep transmitting. They wouldn't just stop. Perhaps it stopped because it crashed, I suppose. I suppose. The jet crashed near Paran, a city outside the airport, according to flight radar. Boeing wrote on Twitter, "We are aware of media reports out of Iran, and we are gathering more information." So I'll tell you this. Boeing has a serious... Look, if it turns out if there's a malfunction, Boeing's going to flip out because they just had the 737 MAX grounded permanently, and that's a massive, massive loss. If it turns out now that the 737-800s, which I believe this was built in like 1996, it's been a long time, are now malfunctioning, Boeing's in serious, serious trouble. So Boeing is incentivized to pass the blame onto somebody else. But if this blame does fall onto Iran, then we are looking at, we might be looking at some serious war, because this is a civilian aircraft full of, a bunch of international, like different countries, citizens, Canadians, Iranians. There are some British people, I believe. So I'll tell you this. When you go over to Reddit, now I know speculation is stupid at this point. We don't know for sure. And I think it's fair to say, regardless of what happens, everyone's going to tone it down because the last thing they want, especially with, Trump's speech saying, he just gave a speech where he's like, we want peace. Okay. It looks like Iran is standing down. We're hoping this is as far as it goes. So nobody wants to hear that Iran accidentally or otherwise took out this plane, because that would mean serious retaliation from a lot of countries. But it looks like that's at least what everyone thinks. Now, I'll show you this real quick. Everybody knows this. Iran fired more than a dozen missiles at 2 U.S. military bases in Iraq. The speculation then is that several hours later, they got scared of retaliation by the U.S. and may have accidentally taken out a commercial airline. Take a look at these comments on Reddit on the story. I'll tell you one thing. The plane did not kill itself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Iranian media, Al Hadath, reported it was shot down by accident. That's a pretty severe accident. Well, I believe, it's up on Twitter, a verified Twitter profile, and it looks like they're based in Dubai. We'll translate this tweet. I'm not entirely sure what it means. I'm just showing you. Let's take everything with a grain of salt for now. Ukrainian plane reportedly crashed as a result of accidental lying of an Iranian missile. So I don't know exactly how that translates properly, what it means. A country that threatens America's base all over the world. You're making a plane wrong. The suspicious almost said, "Take me." It doesn't translate very, very well through Bing. Thank you very much, Microsoft, for your translations. Well, check this out. There was that one Redditor in another thread before the crash whose Canadian mom was in Iran. People were telling him his mom should leave. I'm hoping he's okay. Someone put crashed right into a missile. I'm waiting for all the facts, but to me, this is a reasonable hypothesis for now. More so than mechanical failure. Timing is a big coincidence. Iran's air defenses, presumably at hair trigger alert. No emergency communication from the pilot. If the engine started on fire, the transmission would have come out, and the planes can fly with just one engine. Plane described as a fireball plummeting to the ground. A bird strike might cause an engine to catch fire, wouldn't cause the plane to crash like that. This one said, don't give up. Don't forget that Iran is not giving up the black box for the plane to Boeing to investigate the causes. Sure, but, Boeing is, they're an American company. My understanding, I could be wrong. So I understand why Iran wouldn't want to do that. They're under no obligation to do it. The traditional rules, my understanding, is that the investigating authority in the region takes the black box to investigate and keeps it secure. There's a lot of mistrust over, with Iran right now, so people are really concerned, but it looks like Ukraine will be coming in. Ukraine is an ally of the United States, so I think Ukraine coming in is good news, But I think it's fair to say, everybody thinks that this was an accidental strike. So Ukraine's going to be involved. That's good. Let's see. Let's see what else they got in these Twitter threads. Dropped like a flaming meteor from 8,000 feet. Immediately stopped transmitting. Definitely not a mechanical failure. Someone said, talk to a pilot buddy, and we can't think of a single mechanical failure that would cause this unless we suspended reality. My dad worked on aircraft for 50 plus years, including 22 in the USAF. I asked him last night if it could have just been some sort of failure. His response, no way in hell. A lot of people are saying the same thing. So let me tell you this. I worked for American Airlines when I was 18. I worked there for 2 years. I did general ramp stuff, and that's just basically like loading planes and like doing general, like connecting, power units and air conditioning and stuff. So nothing super technical. But at least my general understanding, having worked at least in this proximity, is that this what they're saying on these comments, adds up. No plane has ever been downed due to turbulence, my understanding. Planes can withstand it. There's videos of engines bursting into flames. Planes can fly with just one engine. They do emergency landings. The systems there's multiple redundancies to protect in the event that the engines go out. They can still, transmit. This is what's happening. We need help. So it seems, at least in my understanding, extremely odd that all of this happened at once. And I think, the reality is rather scary. YouTube might take this video down because, if this is true, we could be talking about a serious and terrifying escalation. But I will also add, if that's the case, if Iran really did this, accidentally or otherwise, I think it could result in a dramatic de-escalation. Like, things have gone too far, and Iran might have no choice but to totally just stop, because if you get, China, if you get NATO forces, if you get China, if you get Russia, everybody saying you messed up on this one, you're standing down. That could ultimately be like a shock to the system, right? That basically, with as severe as this action was, every person of good conscience, no matter what the economics, no matter what the international relations is going to be, is going to say, like, you're done. You're done. That's it. So, the scary thing about war is not what we're seeing right now. What you got to understand is that, actually, no, I take that back. The scary thing about war is the gradual escalation and the normalization of more and more extreme events. It would be better in a kind of, in a certain sense, if there was one major shocking moment that forced everybody to just immediately, drop their weapons and be like, no, we're not doing this. And that's like a nuke moment. Those are not good things. But if you have a slow buildup, skirmishes, invasions, strikes, eventually you reach all-out war, and everyone is just so hell-bent on things escalating that they're like, yeah, well, he did this yesterday, so we did this today. And then the other side's like, well, look what they just did, so we're going to escalate. If one side takes a move too far, it just shuts everything down. It's possible. So, this person says civilians always suffer the most. Why are they Canadian? It looks like this is just, is it still considered a crash if Iran shut it down accidentally? This person says Iran accidentally shot the plane down, is now trying to cover it up. If the Americans shut it down, then Iran would blast them all over the media for it. Absolutely. And that has actually happened before. The U.S. Navy accidentally shot down an Iranian passenger airplane before. They said the entire world would be blasting the U.S. if the U.S. shot down a plane thinking it was an Iranian attack. The lack of intense outrage. This is not the U.S. I've heard some people speculating on Twitter, and it seems absolutely absurd. U.S. drones, maybe, but why would a U.S. drone be flying over Iranian territory right now? Maybe doing surveillance, but I don't know why it would be locked with Reaper missiles or Hellfire missiles or something to go after a commercial plane. It's possible, but I think the most plausible solution is that with the timing and everything, a lot of people are saying that Iran has amassed anti-aircraft forces around many of their airports out of a fear of retaliation, and it may have been a mistake, man. Look at this one. Is it still a plane crash when all evidence coming out shows that it was most likely shot down? Say, you know what? I'm going to stop here, okay? You get the point. We've got this update. Airlines rerouted or cancel flights around Iraq, Iran after a missile strike on U.S. troops. But let me just tell you this. Outside of everything we've heard already, I think it's fair to say, if no one knew what happened, if there was no fireball, if it was just the plane was gone, the plane crashed. Let's just say the plane crashed. People are going to say, you have a missile strike, and then a plane crashes. No one's going to believe it. The same thing happened in Ukraine. We had that civilian commercial airliner crash, and a lot of people were like, oh, it was a malfunction, but I don't have the details on that one pulled up. I think, a lot of people think it was a mistake. It was there's a story, again, fact check me on this one, look into it because it's a totally different story. I don't have the sources pulled up. That they thought it was a military cargo plane that people in, eastern Ukraine did, and so they shot it down. And this might be the case. I mean, you might have some young individual working in some capacity on this anti-aircraft site, press the wrong button, or forgot to put on some kind of safety, or it was a hair trigger, or they panicked. These things happen, man. So naturally, I think it's in the best interests of Iran and the U.S. to just call it a malfunction. Now, Boeing, on the other hand, they're not going to be happy with that, because a malfunction means people are going to be really scared to fly in their planes after what happened with the 737 MAX and now this. But let me end by putting it this way. Occam's razor suggests the simple solution tends to be the correct one. Conspiracy theorists have a problem with choosing the most circuitous story that seems to make no sense. In this instance, we have an active military conflict and a plane crashes. Occam's razor would suggest this was an accident. This was shot down. Accidentally otherwise. I'm not going to speculate. But Occam's razor, simple solution is commercial airliner flying in an active conflict zone, went down, a fireball, stopped transmitting. All these things add up. The simple solution, this plane was shot down, man. So this is all speculation. This is all just a general hypothesis. We don't know what's going to happen. And the best we can do is wait for the investigations to clear. But I don't know what to tell you. Hopefully after Trump's speech, things de-escalate. So stick around. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. at youtube.com/TimCast. I don't even know what I'll talk about on this channel. Let me explain something to all you guys real quick. You're still listening. My main channel is under heavy scrutiny because it's in a special program where actual YouTube office employees watch my videos, and this guarantees monetization. They're also extremely strict, meaning on this channel, this video will be initially demonetized, but by the end of the day, monetized because it's just general news. The people who monitor this channel, because it's not in the same program, typically are more lax. They I don't swear, I'm not bombastic, I'm not screeching, I'm talking about basic news everyone's already heard about. They monetize it, but it's initially demonetized. My main channel, everything is monetized, but this video would absolutely be suppressed and shadow banned on my main channel. Take it for what it is. I don't know what to tell you, but that's why I separate them the way I do. So on my main channel, we're going to see more domestic issues, and I might actually separate it this way. I might keep my main channel as kind of my cultural flagship channel. This will become international and high-intensity issues that are likely to be demonetized. And my new channel, youtube.com/TimCastIRL, is going to be silly, fun shenanigans. Some people have said it sounds like I'm talking about the Joe Rogan podcast, but it's going to be more specialized than that. Fully admitting Rogan and Crowder are big inspirations for me wanting to just, work harder, do more content and stuff like that. So stick around. Next segment will be at 4 p.m. youtube.com/TimCast. It'll probably be more of a domestic political issue, but we'll see. Because, shadow banning isn't going to help anybody. But if there's more developments on these stories, they'll definitely appear on this channel. 6 p.m., 6:15, 6:30 is my 6 o'clock segment. And I will see you all in the next segment at 4.